There is a very specific kind of panic that sets in when you are trying to close a five-figure deal on Zoom while your toddler is in the hallway testing the structural integrity of a Lego tower using nothing but vocal volume. It's a moment where two worlds collide: the unstable, high-risk world of building a business and the absolute, non-negotiable stability required to raise a family. I used to think being an entrepreneur was just about managing cash flow, and being a dad was just about managing sleep deprivation. But when those two circles on the Venn diagram overlap, things get interesting. The math changes. When you're single and your business has a slow month, you eat instant noodles and call it character building. When you have a family, a slow month feels less like character building and more like a structural failure. That shift in perspective forced me to rewrite my entire financial operating system. I realized that standard budgeting advice, the kind that assumes a steady paycheck every 2 weeks, is practically useless for us. It's like trying to use a map of London to navigate New York. The landmarks are all wrong. We need a system that breathes, one that can handle the adrenaline spikes of a good quarter and the crushing silence of a bad one, all without missing a mortgage payment. So, I want to walk you through exactly how I manage this chaos. We are going to look at the specific numbers, the psychological traps, and the automated systems I use to keep the lights on and the sanity intact. This isn't just about pinching pennies or skipping the fancy coffee, though, honestly, my caffeine budget is the only thing keeping civilization from collapsing in my house. This is about establishing a hierarchy of financial survival. We have to prioritize family security, business growth, and our own mental wellness, usually in that order, though the lines blur. If you've ever felt like you're robbing your business to pay your household, or neglecting your family to fund the business, you know the tension I'm talking about. It's a constant triage. But here is the good news. Once you stop fighting the fluctuation and start building a framework around it, the anxiety drops. You stop staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if tax season is going to bankrupt you. Instead, you start seeing your budget not as a constraint, but as a permission slip. It tells you exactly what you can spend on a family vacation without guilt, and exactly how much you can reinvest in that new marketing campaign without risking the grocery bill. So, let's get into the nuts and bolts of how an entrepreneur and a dad can actually master this balancing act. The first hurdle we have to clear is the income illusion. When you have a salary, you know exactly what hits your account on the 15th and the 30th. When you run a business, income is a shapeshifter. Some months it's a flood, other months it's a trickle that barely wets the pavement. I track absolutely every stream, but I treat them differently. I have my predictable income, retainers or recurring revenue, and then I have the wild cards, like one-off projects or quarterly dividends. The mistake most of us make is budgeting based on our best month. We land a big client in March, feel like kings, and suddenly we're signing up for a premium car lease in April. Then May rolls around, the client delays payment, and we're sweating over the electric bill. To fix this, I list every expense, but I separate them into two buckets: fixed and variable. Fixed costs are the non-negotiables like the mortgage, insurance, and childcare. Variable costs are the things we can theoretically dial back, like groceries, dining out, or that third streaming service you swore you'd cancel. But here is the twist. I also add a third bucket that most personal finance gurus miss: business survival costs. These are the expenses that keep the engine running: software subscriptions, contractor fees, and taxes. If you don't pay these, the income stops, and then the family budget collapses anyway. It's a symbiotic relationship. This brings us to the most important number you will ever calculate: the family minimum survival income. This is the bare minimum amount of cash required to keep your family fed, housed, and healthy, assuming zero luxuries. I'm talking about the keep the wolves at the door number. For some of you, in places like Dallas, that number might be $4,000 or $5,000 a month. If you're living in San Francisco or New York, you're probably looking at double that just to stand still. Knowing this number provides immense clarity. It tells you exactly how much you must pay yourself from the business before you even think about reinvesting in growth or buying new office chairs. This figure is my anchor. In a slow month, as long as I cover the survival number, I consider it a win. Anything above that is gravy. It psychologically frees you from the pressure to crush it every single month. You just need to survive the dip. By defining this floor, you stop making decisions out of desperation. You know that as long as you hit that baseline, your family is safe, the lights stay on, and you live to fight another day. It turns a terrifying, nebulous fear into a simple math problem. Now, let's talk about security, because as a dad, that is usually the thing that keeps us up at night. In a traditional job, your employer is the buffer. If they have a bad month, you still get your paycheck. As an entrepreneur, you are the buffer. That means you need thicker walls. I use a 2-bucket buffer system. First, there is the Family Emergency Fund. Standard advice says 3 to 6 months of expenses. For an entrepreneur, I'd argue you need closer to 6 to 9 months. If the economy turns or your industry takes a hit, you don't have a corporate severance package to fall back on. This fund is strictly for personal disasters, medical emergencies, or a total income drought. But here is where people get tripped up. They mix their business cash with their personal safety net. That is a recipe for disaster. So, the second bucket is the business operating buffer. This should cover about 2 to 3 months of your business's fixed costs. This is the money that ensures you can still pay your assistant and your server bills, even if a client ghosts you for 60 days. It stops you from having to raid your kid's college fund just to keep your website online. The discipline here is in the replenishment. Every time I have a revenue spike, say a big project wraps up and a lump sum lands in the account, my instinct is to upgrade my laptop or book a weekend getaway. I have to fight that urge. Instead, I immediately check the buffers. If they have been depleted at all, the windfall goes there first. It's not sexy. Putting money into a savings account that earns minimal interest feels boring compared to buying crypto or investing in a new product line. But liquidity is the ultimate luxury for a parent. Knowing that I can go 6 months with zero revenue and my kids won't notice a difference in their quality of life, that is worth more than any gadget. It buys you the mental space to make good, long-term business decisions rather than short-term panic moves. When you aren't desperate for cash, you negotiate better deals. You walk away from bad clients. You become a better business owner because you aren't operating from a place of scarcity. We need a mechanism to actually move this money around without overthinking it every single week. I rely on a modified version of the 50-30-20 rule. In the classic version, you spend 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings. But for us, that 30% wants category is dangerous territory when income varies. So I use what I call the owner's draw method. Once a week, usually on Fridays because it feels like a payday, I log into my business account. I look at the balance, subtract the upcoming business expenses for the next month, and leave that business buffer we talked about intact. Whatever is left is theoretically profit. From that profit, I transfer a set salary to my personal family account. If the business had a killer week, the extra money stays in the business account as a profit reserve. If the business had a slow week, I draw from that reserve to pay my salary. This artificially smooths out the ride. My family checking account sees the exact same number every Friday, regardless of the chaos happening in the business background. This creates stability for my partner and the household budget. We can set up autopay for the mortgage and utilities because we know that transfer is coming. Once that money hits the personal account, then I apply the percentages. I aim for 70% on living costs, 20% on savings and investments, and 10% for giving or pure entertainment. That 10% fun money is crucial. If you strip all the joy out of your budget in the name of financial responsibility, you will eventually snap and buy something ridiculous, like a jet ski or a purebred alpaca. You have to budget for fun the same way you budget for electricity. It's a fuel that keeps you going. Also, notice I said 20% for savings and investments. That needs to happen automatically. As soon as the salary hits the personal account, an auto transfer moves that 20% into investment accounts. If I have to manually move it, I won't. I'll look at it and think, maybe we need a new couch. Automation protects you from your own lack of willpower. It's the only way to build wealth consistently while you are distracted by raising tiny humans. Here is a mindset shift that took me years to accept. Time is your most expensive asset. When you are a solopreneur or a small business owner, every hour you spend scrubbing a toilet or fighting with a lawnmower is an hour you aren't billing a client or playing with your kids. I used to pride myself on being the guy who did everything. I'd spend 4 hours on a Saturday deep cleaning the house to save $100. But the math didn't work. If my hourly rate in the business is significantly higher than the cost of a cleaner, I am technically losing money by doing it myself. More importantly, I'm losing energy. Parenting drains your battery. Running a business drains your battery. If you spend your recharge time doing low-value chores, you burn out. So, I started strategically spending on convenience. We budget specifically for services that buy us time. House cleaning, grocery delivery, maybe a meal kit service for busy weeks. It feels like a luxury, but I view it as an operational expense for the family. You have to look at the return on energy, not just the return on investment. If spending $50 on a grocery delivery service saves me 2 hours of dragging a screaming toddler through the cereal aisle, that is a massive win. That is 2 hours I can spend decompressed and present with my family, or 2 hours I can spend finishing a proposal that brings in $5,000. The key is to be intentional. I don't outsource everything. I cook because I enjoy it. It's a break for my brain. But I don't enjoy folding laundry. So if I can find a way to minimize that, I do. It's about removing the friction from your life so you can focus on the 2 things that actually matter: growing your income and raising your kids. Don't let the guilt of, I should be able to do it all, stop you from building a support system. You aren't a pioneer on the prairie. You're a CEO and a dad in a complex economy. Use the tools available to you. Now we have to talk about the traps, because there are landmines everywhere. The biggest one for entrepreneurs is lifestyle inflation, or as I call it, the I deserve this syndrome. You close a massive deal, the money hits your account, and suddenly your perfectly good Honda looks like a piece of junk. You start browsing real estate listings for houses with pools. You convince yourself that because you worked hard, you should upgrade your life immediately. The problem is, expenses are sticky. Income is not. If you upgrade your lifestyle to match a peak earning month, you are setting yourself up for agony when the inevitable dip comes. The mortgage on the big house is due every month, whether you closed a deal or not. My rule for this is simple. Wait 72 hours. If I want to buy something significant, basically anything over a few $100 that isn't a necessity, I force myself to wait 3 days. Usually, the dopamine rush fades, and I realize I don't actually want the thing. I just wanted the feeling of reward. The other trap is the blurring of business and family spending. This is where the IRS gets cranky and your budget gets messy. It's easy to swipe the business card for a team dinner that is really just pizza with the kids, or to buy a business laptop that is primarily used for Minecraft. Keep the accounts separate. Treat your business like a separate entity that you happen to work for. If you need to buy something big, write a business case for it. I'm serious, even if it's just a paragraph in a notebook. Why do I need this new camera? Will it actually generate revenue, or is it just a toy? If I can't justify it on paper, I don't buy it. This little bit of friction saves me thousands of dollars a year. It stops the impulse buys that look like business investments but are actually just distractions. Remember, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Don't let your ego spend your cash before your profit is secured. One of the best parts of this journey is that you get to bring your kids along. We don't hide money talk in our house. I think the old school approach of, "Don't worry about money, that's for adults," actually breeds anxiety. Kids are smart. They know when you're stressed. If you don't explain it, they make up their own scary reasons. I want my kids to understand that money is a tool, not a mystery. We involve them in the process. When we go to the grocery store, I'll give them a mission. We need cereal, but we only have $5 for it. Find the best one. They start looking at price tags. They start comparing sizes. They learn that money is finite and that choices have trade-offs. If they choose the expensive brand name, they might not have enough left over for the treat they wanted. That is a low-stakes lesson that pays massive dividends later. We also talk about the why behind big decisions. If we decide not to go to Disney World this year, I don't just say we can't afford it. I say we are choosing to save that money so we can renovate the basement instead. I want them to see that budgeting is about allocation, not deprivation. It's about choosing what matters most to us as a family. As they get older, I show them the connection between the business and our life. Daddy has to work late tonight because we are launching a new project that will help pay for our summer trip. It connects the effort to the reward. It teaches them that money doesn't come from a magic hole in the wall. It comes from creating value for other people. That is an entrepreneurial mindset that will serve them well, whether they start a business or not. Systems are great, but they drift. Entropy is real. That is why you need the monthly reset. Once a month, my partner and I sit down, usually with wine because, let's be honest, it helps, and we review the numbers. We look at what came in, what went out, and where the leaks are. Did we spend $600 on takeout? Okay, why? Were we lazy or were we overwhelmed? If we were overwhelmed, maybe we need to adjust the schedule, not just the budget. This isn't a time to judge each other. It's a time to realign. We also look at the business forecast. If I know next month is going to be slow, I give the heads up. Hey, revenue looks light for November. Let's pause on buying that new furniture. This communication prevents the shock. It makes us a team. We are co-CEOs of the household. This meeting is also where we celebrate. If we hit a savings goal, we acknowledge it. We high-five. We reinforce the idea that we are winning this game together. If you only talk about money when there is a problem, you train your brain to hate the topic. You have to celebrate the boring wins, like paying off a credit card or fully funding the emergency fund. Ultimately, this comes down to mindset. Budgeting as an entrepreneur and dad shouldn't feel restrictive. It should feel like building a fortress. It's about creating a structure that can withstand the chaos of the world so that inside the walls, your family can thrive. When you have your survival number known, your buffers filled, and your automation running, you walk differently. You don't panic when a client leaves. You don't stress when the water heater breaks. You just handle it. You move from a mindset of scarcity, always worried about the next dollar, to a mindset of abundance. You realize that you have the skills to generate income and the discipline to manage it. That combination is unstoppable. So, take a look at your setup. Are you treating your family finances with the same respect you treat your business? If not, start with the survival number. Build the buffer. Buy back your time. It's the best investment you will ever make. Drop a comment below and let me know which part of this balance is hardest for you, the fluctuating income or the discipline to save it. I'd love to hear how you handle it. Thanks for listening, and here's to building wealth without losing your mind.